When it comes to Black Ops 3, most people think about the campaign, the multiplayer, and of course, the 5-star zombies mode. But what about the game modes that no one talks about anymore? The modes that have been lost to time, and the ones that people honestly have a hard time remembering. Well, that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. My name is Prematch. If you love Call of Duty content just like this, then you already know to be sure to subscribe. But without further ado, let's get started.
Free run.
When you load up Free Run for the first time, you obviously notice something right off the bat. This looks unlike anything else that we've ever seen in Call of Duty. Just looking around the map in general, you will notice a giant green field in all directions, and it only seems to end when it goes into fog. This aesthetic alone gives this mode a very liminal and creepy vibe to it by itself. And then you look at the actual course, and you can obviously see something here that you never see anywhere else, not just in Black Ops 3, but in Call of Duty as a whole. Running past the checkered flags, you will notice that the timer starts, meaning that it is time to begin your free run course. You will have to accomplish a random set of maneuvers and tasks and other tactics in order to have an accomplishment of this course. Jumping, sliding under objects, using your jetpack to get on top of elevated surfaces, basic marksmanship skills, wall running, and even swimming are all a part of the task you have to accomplish when it comes to free run. One thing that I have to mention about this game mode specifically is that upon downloading Black Ops 3 for the first time, you will have access to actually play this mode before the rest of the game finishes installing. I believe that this decision was deliberately made by the developers in order to provide the player with a form of basic training when it comes to the movement system of Black Ops 3. Because it is a place where you can learn to practice all these things. However, I don't necessarily think that this mode specifically was meant to just be a training course, and I'm going to get into why right now. One of those reasons is because there are leaderboards for free run. As you can see here, this is now my best time that I've had, and this will go on my record on the leaderboards in comparison to other players and my friends. Unfortunately, on the PC version of Black Ops 3, it looks like the leaderboards are not working for free run. However, if you go on Xbox, they actually are working, but unfortunately, it looks like this account here actually did just like bomb the leaderboards and ruin everything. But when you get to the 196th spot on the leaderboards, you will find a man by the name of Pyrocynic who does hold the world record for the first map on free run. You can actually watch this video on YouTube to this day. There are actually 3 more free run maps when it comes to the selection, and each one gets harder and harder the more you go. Alpha is beginner, Sidewinder is intermediate, Infected is advanced, and Blackout is expert, giving you a total of 4 different maps that you can play to compete with your friends and other people when it comes to leaderboards and getting better times. Free run is really good at what it is trying to do, and that's basically because there's so many different things you could do while playing, even though the gameplay is very linear. Whether you want to just get better at the movement in Black Ops 3, fight for time trials, or just have some chill gameplay to have in the background when you're talking to friends, this mode is a little bit more universal than you might think. But it is not without flaws, and I think there are 2 major flaws when it comes to free run in Black Ops 3. The first one is that this is only solo. There is no co-op here. And you might be thinking, okay, well, it doesn't need co-op, and you'd be right about that. But could you imagine if there was co-op? If there were like different things you could do to like mess with other people trying to beat you during the race or something, like shoot them or throw something at them or throw something in their way, do something to be able to block them from winning the race. That would be really cool, and it's something that I wish they would do at some point. The other big L when it comes to free run is the fact that they never added any DLC for it. And okay, I get it. It is a very small bonus mode. There's not really that much going on here. So I can see how the developers didn't want to put more time into developing maps for this, but hear me out. This mode, when it came out way back in Black Ops 3, was a big deal. A lot of big YouTubers were going for speedruns on this thing, fighting for best times and all this kind of stuff. And could you imagine if they were to have released just one DLC free run map in every DLC pack that came out? Then I feel like this mode would have been a lot more hyped and a lot more popular. In fact, I think it would have even returned in other games like Infinite Warfare as well. Altogether, I believe that free run is a perfectly fine little bonus game mode in Black Ops 3. It doesn't do anything super crazy, and it also doesn't do too little either. In my opinion, free run has cemented itself as one of the better bonus modes when it comes to Black Ops 3, but the next bonus mode that we're going to cover did not have the same reception. So this is actually not the campaign for anyone who's wondering. This is Nightmares, which is a bonus mode in Black Ops 3. For those who have never played this mode, I don't blame you. I feel like it is definitely one of the more forgotten modes in this game. It basically takes the 11 missions from the campaign and it puts zombies on them and adds zombies elements to them, but there is a little bit more than just that. The core gameplay is a hybrid of the campaign and the traditional zombies mode. For example, players will have access to the advanced movement mechanics like thrust jumping and wall running, while at the same time having a few zombies elements that we all know and love. However, these elements do work a little bit differently than they normally do in the traditional zombies mode. For example, there is no points to hit the box, so you can literally just hit the box over and over again until you get something that you like. There are also power-ups in this mode, like max ammo, which does exactly what it does in the regular zombies mode, but then there's one like insta-kill, which works a little bit differently. Yes, you still have normal insta-kill, but you have no indication when it's going to go away. But there is another insta-kill power-up, and it's this gold one that you see here, and upon grabbing this one, it will basically freeze time for a few seconds, similar to the killing time gobblegum from the regular zombies mode. We also have a brand new power-up in this mode as well. Now, I don't have a name for this one, but I'll tell you what it does. It just gives you a new random cybernetic ability. For those who don't know, the cybernetic abilities are basically the specialist weapons that are found in the campaign exclusively. However, it is important to mention that you do not have access to all of these cybernetic abilities that are found in the campaign, and you also can't switch them out mid-game like you normally could. Basically, they are all on a completely random basis. Similar to the regular campaign, there are collectibles here as well, and they are all these glowing teddy bears. Fun fact, they are actually in the exact same locations as the regular campaign collectibles, and they stand out a lot more, so they're much easier to see. Upon finding 3 teddy bears in a given mission, the player will be granted with a random Zombies Easter egg song. This song can also be played within your data vault inside the safe house in the regular campaign as well, once you've unlocked it. Another huge dub with this mode is the fact that it is co-op as well, up to 4 players, and there's even public matches that you can find people on to this day. Now, admittedly, all of these things are pretty cool elements that are specifically unique to Nightmares as a mode. There is other aspects of this game mode that are unique, but the major flaw with it is that it literally is just campaign levels, and there's zombies thrown on it. That's just the one thing that I really can't get behind. Like, for example, this mission that you're seeing right now is literally the exact same mission from the regular campaign where you chase this guy down on the rooftop. There's literally no difference. There's literally no difference other than the audio. But if you can ignore the whole campaign missions being used in the Nightmare story, well, it actually does have quite a unique narrative. The plot shifts from a DNI-induced simulation to an outbreak caused by a virus called 6115. And 6115 is actually a blend of Nova 6 and Element 115, which are 2 pretty famous things if we're talking about Black Ops lore. I think the hardest thing to watch in terms of the Nightmares campaign is the cutscenes involving the characters speaking to one another, because these characters, although their lips are moving and you can see them in front of you, they're actually not saying anything at all. In fact, these cutscenes have been completely redubbed by an entirely different conversation that's going on. The story is told through the perspective of the player character, who is known as Dead Killer. Your job is to kill all the zombies in the outbreak, while being guided by a mysterious figure named Dr. Salim, who is in contact with your character through the DNI system that was present in the campaign. These missions are not a simulation, but they are actually a recollection of all the events that happened to get the player in their current predicament. I don't want to spoil the story for anyone who actually wants to play it, but I will say this: there's gods involved, there's manipulation, and there is the topic of free will. So if that interests you, which it did for me, go play it. But unfortunately, this game mode just did not have a good reputation, and it was not well received on launch. And really, it all comes down to a few main factors. The first one, which is kind of a minor point, is the fact that the campaign itself in Black Ops 3 really just didn't have a good reputation either, and I believe that most people kind of thought, well, why would I want to play a zombies version of the campaign, which I didn't like anyway? So I guess that's admirable, but still. My second point would be just a general negative hive mind around the mode itself amongst the community. I guarantee you that 90% of people who have something bad to say about Nightmares have either never played it or they've only played the first mission. But I believe the main reason why Nightmares has the reputation that it has today is all because of the hype that it had originally, and it just did not live up to that hype. If you've ever seen the trailer for Nightmares, then you know that they literally marketed this as a completely different experience than what we actually got. They were trying to tell us that this was the all-new Zombies campaign, which I guess they're not lying, but it definitely is not what we expected. Let's be honest. Even though I actually like the storyline of Nightmares because I actually gave it a chance, that doesn't mean that that's what they should have done. Could you imagine if they had actually made a Zombies campaign, but it took place in the Ether Zombie storyline and had like perks and Pack-a-Punch and power-ups, normally, like all these different things? I feel like it would have been perceived much different. Although it was not the Ether storyline that most people expected, I do have to give it some unique points. Nightmares is the most unique and different campaign experience of any Call of Duty to date. Nothing else is like it. Literally nothing else even comes close to what Nightmares is. And to be honest, for that reason, I respect it. Although the gameplay can be pretty stale at times, having long drawn out segments of killing zombies waiting for the next objective to be completed, I get it. But I respect it for what it is, although the general perception of the mode by the community wasn't all that great. So before we head over to Dead Ops Arcade 2, which is why I'm sure most people clicked on this video to begin with, I have to go over another mode that is even more hidden than these other bonus modes. And that's because this mode is actually hidden within the campaign's safe house itself. And that game mode is, of course, the Combat Immersion. If you don't know what this game mode is, then I don't blame you, okay? Because there is no menu options to be able to select this mode at all. It's literally only found within the safe house of the campaign missions, and it is not a required thing. It is completely optional. Upon creating your custom loadout, you will then start the level, and you'll notice that everything looks a little strange here. And that's because this is actually a combat simulation. However, it's more than just training. It actually is its own separate wave defense mode. You will have to fight off various different enemy types throughout 16 different waves that get harder and harder as the game progresses. It is not an unlimited wave defense mode similar to the Zombies mode. It does have a cap at 16 waves. However, there are different difficulties that you can play this mode on, and trust me, if you play this on anything higher than the regular mode, then this is kind of tough. And the reason is simply because it's only a solo mode and you can't even use the emergency reserve tactical rig to revive yourself upon going down. You also have everything unlocked despite what level you have in the current campaign, meaning that you have every single cybernetic ability to choose from and every single weapon to put in your custom loadout. Although this game mode is not a requirement to play in order to beat the campaign, you will still have to complete some challenges on this mode in order to have 100% completion of all the campaign challenges. One of them is a service record medal. Basically, you have to get 3,500 score in the Combat Immersion in order to unlock this, which is a little bit harder than you might think. And this is a requirement in order to get the Personal Decorator achievement on Black Ops 3. There are two different calling card challenges as well for this game mode. One of them is you have to earn a Tier 3 rating while playing. Now, this might seem a little difficult at first. You just have to go as fast as possible, and then you'll probably get it. But the other one is the really, really hard one, and this one is called Ready for Anything. And you have to complete the entire Combat Immersion on Realistic mode in order to unlock this. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in Black Ops 3. There is definitely a meta here, and I would highly recommend using this loadout if you want to play a harder difficulty. Basically, the Dracon with a thermal sight. It is a super powerful sniper rifle. It can shoot through walls if you have FMJ, and you can use the D&I ability to be able to see enemies through walls anyway. So it's pretty freaking amazing, and it's definitely the best gun in the game for this mode. I would also recommend using a Black Cell rocket launcher as well, just so you can easily shoot down the big robots that you have to defeat. But when it comes to your custom loadout, the tactical rig is probably the most important thing to make sure that you get right when it comes to playing this mode. In my opinion, because you cannot use the emergency reserve tactical rig, I would highly recommend the Traversal Enhancement as well as Repulsor Armor. Traversal Enhancement gives you the ability of wall running as well as thrust jumping, and you are going to need that in this mode because this is a time-based mode and you have to beat it as fast as possible. So having the fastest movement you can possibly have is definitely needed. But Repulsor Armor is 100% necessary to complete this game mode. There are so many random grenades and rockets flying your way, And I died so many times until I put on repulsor armor, and then everything was fixed because it deflects incoming grenades and rockets. The reason that I respect this mode, to be honest, even if it is kind of basic and it's not really too well known, is because they did not have to make this at all. This is a completely one-off optional thing that isn't even required to complete the game. And this is something that you would never see in Call of Duty today because it is not monetizable. There is no operator skin packs or microtransactions that are involved in this mode. They did it for the love of the game. And for that reason, I have to respect it. And this could also be said about the other modes that we've already covered, as well as our next mode, which is why I'm sure many people clicked on this video to begin with, and that is, of course, Dead Ops Arcade 2. DOA 2 is a bonus game mode in Black Ops 3, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter with a chaotic zombie-slaying theme. It's a direct sequel to the original Dead Ops Arcade found in the first Black Ops. This game is played from an overhead perspective, with players moving their character with one stick and aiming and firing with the other. Players battle seemingly endless waves of zombies and other creatures across a variety of unique arcade-themed maps. The game is designed for 1 to 4 players, however, I will say that having more than one person seems to make this game mode a lot easier. Playing Dead Ops Arcade by yourself is really difficult. In fact, I would say that this is probably the hardest game mode in the entirety of Black Ops 3. I, to this day, have never defeated the Cosmic Silverback, but if you think I'm just bad at the game, let me just show you the leaderboards. So first off, the PC leaderboards, of course, are not working, but if we go over to Xbox, we can see that this guy at the very top only has defeated the Silverback 1,000 times. So, I'm not trying to discredit this. I mean, obviously, this is a very good accomplishment. I'm just trying to state how difficult this game mode really is. If we go down to number 50, for example, we can see a drastically different number. You're telling me that in the almost 10 years that Black Ops 3 has been out, this is the amount of times people have defeated the Silverback on the leaderboards? This just goes to show how difficult this mode truly is. For those who don't know, basically the goal of this mode is to defeat the final boss, which occurs on round 64, where players will face off against the Cyber Silverback. Defeating this boss is the main objective for completing a full run of the game. However, a key element of the arcade experience is that after defeating the boss, the game loops, starting back at round 1 with increased difficulty, and this encourages players to keep playing, aiming for higher rounds and a place on the leaderboard. Now, I'm not too well versed with the whole Dead Ops Arcade 2 community as a whole, but I do know that there are multiple different segments of the leaderboards for this mode. Like, for example, it's not just Silverback defeats, there's also rounds, score, and skulls, and other things like that. In my opinion, you guys should check out this channel right here. It's called the Moz Project. This guy seems to be one of the main guys in the Dead Ops Arcade community, so anything revolving around leaderboards, community stuff, I would check out this guy's channel. But I will go over a few elements of this mode here. Like, for example, I think the star of the show when it comes to Dead Ops Arcade has to be the power-ups. These power-ups are very unique and creative. One of the most popular ones for this game specifically is the first-person power-up, which does exactly what you think it does. It puts you in a first-person mode, which is something that Dead Ops Arcade 1 did not have. What's unique about this mode specifically is that you can actually get hit more than one time, which makes it a little bit better if you think about it, but you also don't have this crazy visibility either because you're from the first person perspective and not the top-down perspective. There's other power-ups like weapons, for example. As you can see in this gameplay, I just picked up a flamethrower, and you can also grab a max ammo power-up, which will upgrade your weapon. Think of it sort of like a pack-a-punch. And you also have a freeze on your ammo usage. So as you can see here in the top left, I do have a certain amount of ammo that is now going down, but if you have a max ammo on, then it will actually freeze that ammo consumption. But once you use your entire upgrade, it will just go back to the default weapon that we had before. But eventually, you will also run out of ammo in your weapon that you picked up, and you will go back down to the default weapon, which is kind of weak, but to be honest, it just works exactly how it's supposed to work. You can always get upgraded weapons as well. Some of these power-ups are significantly better than the other ones. For example, some of them are just weapons like this, and the weapons are nice, but then some of them are really overpowered, like the tank, for example. But then you go to this whole other area where there's unique and creative power-ups. There are a ton of different power-ups in Dead Ops Arcade 2. I'm going to list them on screen right now. It's too much to name, but I'm just going to say this. They get super creative with a lot of these. Other notable features include bonus rooms, challenge rounds whenever you enter a new area, and these mini games like Redden's Rally, for example. Yes, a lot of these things that you see in this mode are campaign assets that are reused, but it's not the fact that they're reused, it's how they're implemented. It's how they switched it up to make it its own unique thing. You have to think about this, for example. Dead Ops Arcade 2, just like all these other modes we've talked about today, absolutely did not have to exist. They could have just released campaign, multiplayer, and some other third mode like zombies or Spec Ops or whatever. But Black Ops 3 is the greatest example, in my opinion, of making stuff that didn't have to be made, but making it just for the sake of the fans enjoying the product. Were some of these modes kind of lackluster, and were some of these modes not necessarily too fulfilling? Absolutely. You can only have so much fun on a game mode like Free Run and Nightmares, for example, but the fact that they exist in the game anyway to allow the player to have a switch up in terms of what mode they're playing for a good little 30 minutes of fun, that's exactly what Call of Duty needs, in my opinion. Dead Ops Arcade 4 has actually been announced for Black Ops 7, which is coming out pretty soon, so for what that's worth, that's pretty good. But in all reality, there will probably be no other Call of Duty game that has as much content in terms of stuff that they didn't have to make, but they did anyway, even if it was non-monetizable, than Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And this is why Black Ops 3, in my opinion, will always stand out as one of the greatest games in Call of Duty history. But if you want to watch an entire video about the evolution of Call of Duty and all of its history, be sure to watch this video on screen right now. But other than that, I'll see y'all in the next one.